Electrocast.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you. I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host, Iris, and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
Today we're talking a movie from 2014, the second episode in our Teacher Month series here at Or Whatever Movies. I finished watching this movie and was like, I hate that MRFer. Whiplash.
You got to say it right. Whiplash, a Blumhouse movie.
It's BH Productions, Wes.
Jason Reitman.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Well, that's how you get JK Simmons on board anything.
Oh, right. JK Simmons' most recent turn as the schlong-slinging what's-his-face from Saturday Night.
He slings schlong? Oh, Uncle Milty.
I finished watching this movie and I was like, I hate that movie. It's so good, I hate it. Now, that was not exactly the response I think Damien Chazelle was going for. Damien Chazelle, by the way. Do you like La La Land?
La La Land is not my tempo.
Yeah, I think we talked about that. Whiplash, your tempo?
Whiplash, definitely my tempo.
Not always. JK Simmons as Fletcher's tempo.
Well, JK Simmons makes this movie, right? As talented, as demonstrated on screen as Miles Teller is, this movie is sort of all about J.K. Simmons.
Well, the Fletcher character is definitely our antagonist.
And to that end, I think that J.K. Simmons, there are the career-defining moments, and I think this was it for J.K. Simmons. He was a little bit older, but I think people find their roles that are breakthrough roles. Samuel L. Jackson was around for 1,000,000 years before playing Jules Winfield. J.K. Simmons was in Jason Reitman movies and had been around for a long time. But J.K. Simmons, I think, was right because it was scary, because he could beat any of those kids' asses and maybe would. Remember when Andrew is drumming furiously and he's trying desperately to hold on to the part because Connolly is right behind him, ready to go on the kid, and he's sweating and he's like, faster, faster. And he's throwing chairs and kicking drums out of the way and stuff. And he's raging around him like a tornado, but doesn't actually touch him. And aside from smacking him in the face, which isn't like assault, you know what I mean? That's like, it's motivation. He doesn't actually touch any of those guys, but he could. Maybe because of the slapping, you think, he could really decapitate someone with a cymbal. And I think that's why J.K. Simmons is so imposing and scary to all of them, because they realize that they're not safe. They can't mouth off to a teacher just for fun to show off to their friends. Like, Paul Giamatti couldn't have pulled off this role.
I mean, yeah, J.K. Simmons is intimidating, and he's also the model portrait of a psychopath, sociopath. I mean, yes, that's what they do. They intimidate you in every way possible, but they toe the line.
Interesting.
They don't ever actually cross it. They don't commit crimes, although verbal abuse and emotional abuse is a pretty serious subject. This is what they do. They flirt with the norms, but try not to cross them while being otherwise, big a-holes.
And so he talks about it being in service of really motivating, pushing people past what's expected of them. It seems obvious because you hate him so much that you think that it's immediately too far.
So even if he isn't crossing some kind of pedagogy line or whatever, you're saying it just seems like it's too far because of how afraid of him you are?
Note to self, Google pedagogy. Within 5 seconds, it's contentious. Did I tell you to start playing again? Would he turn into a wind-up monkey? And you're like, oh, and you hate him immediately. And it's so clear that Miles Teller, what's his name? Andrew, doesn't feel that way. You know, he's calling him sir. He's really put out that Fletcher leaves. And then he's all hopeful when he comes back for his jacket. Immediately, he's like, here is my finger, and now you're going to wrap yourself around it immediately. And then I'm going to, take you wherever I want to go and make you do whatever I want to do.
I'm so glad that you brought up the opening because it's so important in this movie and understanding their dynamic. So before JK Simmons comes in to find the Andrew character playing, practicing, whatever, why is Andrew there?
Because that's what he does. That's what Steven Spielberg does. He goes into Universal Studios, breaks into the lot, sets up a little placard or whatever, sets up an office, and is like, I'm here, I'm a filmmaker now, and I'm just going to wait for somebody to notice me.
That's the thing. Andrew is there intentionally, strategically, to be noticed by Fletcher. Andrew is motivated. He's ambitious, he's talented, and he's putting himself in what he hopes is the right place at the right time to be noticed by someone who makes a difference in his career trajectory. Fletcher is there because he's looking for talent. And in a very neutral sense, they are playing a match game and find a match. And so to say that Andrew is like victimized in this movie is true, but it's also because Andrew is a match for Fletcher and his teaching style. We as an audience are only willing to put up with as much as Andrew the character is, and he's willing to put up with a lot. I can't understate this dynamic, that this is a match game between two characters that for their own individual motivations need each other in this movie.
Yes, but being a part of the conservatory corps is everything that he wants to a point. Like, their dynamic is bound by their limitations. Fletcher can't touch him, and Andrew has a breaking point. And we very clearly see that breaking point. And while he can't touch him, he can get him booted out of Shaffer for tackling his teacher in front of a crowd covered in blood. So it's really about the power that Fletcher wields that Andrew understands could shape his future, make his talent recognized.
Yeah, make him stand out at the family dinner.
But that dynamic is necessary, as you were talking about, a very important component of this movie because it shows how far Andrew is willing to go to please Fletcher or be up to his standards. I don't know if there's pleasing Fletcher.
Yeah, I don't know that there's proving yourself to him either, right? It's all a mind game. I think what he's ultimately trying to achieve is using Fletcher to achieve what he otherwise doesn't feel like he can achieve on his own. And yeah, there might be some kind of masochistic, like, I want to prove to myself that I can win this guy over, that I can win. I mean, all of these things, a feeling that I've definitely experienced. I watched Whiplash when it came out in 2014, and I told myself that I would never watch it again.
Really?
Yes, I was so profoundly affected by this film. I have very intentionally avoided it since then, even though it's so effective at what it does. The kind of like PTSD that it brings up in me is profound. And it's because I relate a lot to the Andrew character, and I've been in abusive work situations, and it's gnarly.
I hated Brian Dennehy for messing with Rambo too much, who's just trying to get on with his life. Did you hate JK Simmons for his role of Fletcher?
Hated him.
The actor?
Passion. Well, I mean, was it like Halo effect that I hate JK Simmons and whenever I see him, I'm like triggered?
Right.
I can at least compartmentalize a little bit of that. I mean, if any of his future characters kind of bring out a little bit of Fletcher, like maybe I start twitching and my eyeball starts like pulsating or something like that. No, I don't hate J.K. Simmons, but I definitely hate this guy. And I walk away from this movie and I'm like, I hate that guy and I hate this movie and I hate it.
So there is pushing him, there's getting him to realize his potential, but I think the reason that you hate the Fletcher character is because his means are not only unconventional, they are immediately over the top and excessive, and they're intentional. It's not like we're going to meet or I want you to practice by getting here at 6 a.m. Don't be late. Punctuality is going to prove to him your seriousness. It's super early. You want to be part of my corps, you show up early. And then he sits there at the kit until 9 a.m. That's deliberate. That's just messing with him.
Yeah, but he was also late. Is it possible that Fletcher was there and then left at 6:05?
But that's him twisting in the wind. His fear, his panic, his determination was all evident in him eating it, running downstairs, getting up and racing to the thing. Yes, he was late, but also it demonstrated how important it was to him and how all that effort and those good intentions were futile in the face of Fletcher's, just messing with him, just his grander scheme.
What you're saying is that Fletcher may have set him up to fail by calling a 6 a.m. rehearsal?
No, I think it was, this is a demonstration of my control. If you want the scraps from my table, you're going to have to sit there staring up at me for the duration of the meal or whatever, and it may or may not come. It was just like, I'm going to do a thing to watch him hop to it to meet my excessively early call time, and then I'll never mention it again. So that was kind of a dick move, but how intentional, was that part of his Miyagi style training where he doesn't understand that getting up early gets the blood pumping and that's when you do your best drumming? And so then I started to look how intentional, how purposeful was, we should have done, we already did Karate Kid available at or whatever movies or whatever, but that would have been the culmination of Teacher Month. But then I was like, okay, well, how much method is there to his madness? And he interrupted him no less than 10 times. I counted. It's 10 times if you include the chair thrown at Andrew's head, where he tries to drum at the right tempo and he stops him. And I couldn't tell if he was rushing or dragging. I couldn't tell if he was in fact off tempo. I couldn't tell if Sadzak, Elmer Fudd, Metz was out of tune, and neither could Metz, and that's bad enough. And then to find out that he wasn't the one who was out of tune, got kicked out anyway, okay. The fact that he didn't know is bad if you're trying to be a world-class premier musician, but he let the out-of-tune guy stay, who also didn't hear it and also didn't voice his guilt.
Yeah, but I don't think that there is any logic to Fletcher's rules. Like, double standards abound, rendering his core group of musicians at his mercy.
But you have to understand that his musicianship has such a high level of proficiency that I couldn't tell.
Yeah, but could anybody?
That's exactly my point. The sort of impenetrable nature of the music that you don't know, that I don't know, made me question JK Simmons' method, and compounded with the fact that he's just messing with Andrew with the 6 a.m. call, with having the hand on the wall Benji from A Real Pain style conversation where he's like, what does your mom do? What does your dad do? Oh yeah, well, you're here for a reason. I mean, have fun, just relax. That's what it's about. Good stuff, and pats him on the chest. And I was like, ugh. His plan is to mess with Andrew as much as possible to see where his limits are, to take him to the breaking point, push him over the edge, and then see if he'll come up, show up covered in blood and battered with his sticks or not with his sticks, where he has to race back to the frickin' thing. JK Simmons said he saw the movie 3 times in the theater, really early on. And every time when Andrew would sign the agreement for his rental car, grab his stuff and head off, and it's like less than a second that we see his sticks still on the thing. There's an audible gasp from the audience. Like, oh no. And boy, did I feel that, because and it's kind of representative of a lot of the movie, where underneath that something is terribly wrong, and when he smiles at him all innocently, like, oh yeah, we got a newbie here, here's Andrew, and you see him smiling like he's all like, I'm part of a team, and then you just know that he's going to crush him, that it's coming, where he has to haze him or demean him or whatever. Fletcher is a step ahead, and he's got it all mapped out. And it's based on, this is iterative musical torture. He knows what happened to Charlie Parker, and he knows what happened to blah, blah, blah. And he's going to make sure that that's how you foster greatness. That's how you get it to emerge, is through trial and through pain. Maybe he's not going to get his Charlie Parker, but he's going to try. I think that everything he says to Andrew later on is actually true. He did try. But even at that point, for their innocent little drink or whatever, the machinations are in place.
Absolutely. He won't lose. And another thing that makes him the most dangerous kind of sadist is that he believes in his philosophy. He believes that his methods will cause the next Charlie Parker to rise to the occasion. If there is a Charlie Parker inside of Andrew, that it is precisely his methods that will inspire him to rise to the occasion.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
At the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event, get deals so right, it almost feels wrong. Now's the best time to get that Hyundai you've always wanted. Plus, every new Hyundai comes with America's Best Warranty and 3 years or 36,000 miles of limited complimentary maintenance. Don't think you can get away with all that? Think again. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today. It's a great day for a new Hyundai.
He believes in what he's doing and is also a sociopath.
Interesting word. Is going too far okay? Is that what gets him off? Or is he really trying to get the best out of Andrew and doesn't care what that does to other parts of his life? It reminded me of The Bear, which you haven't watched because you don't watch TV.
Huh.
But if Andrew is in a devastating car wreck where he can't hold his sticks, and when the moment of truth comes, he just collapses on the set and can't drum. If one of his students commits suicide because of all the pressure, is he thinning the herd? Is he Darwinianly just removing the weakness from this core that, from which a hero might arise? Is it okay if people collapse under the weight because then they weren't the chosen one?
If you're asking if there is method to his madness, I think it's kind of beside the point. Yes, there is, but that doesn't make it okay.
Well, what's okay? Is it okay if Charlie Parker never becomes Bird? Is that Charlie Parker?
I think, yeah, the bird or bird.
Fletcher gives Connolly a chance, and Andrew is hurt by that. But he's like, yeah, I brought in a kid. He was just like you. He's going to give a chance. Oh, that was perfect, Connolly. This is what I love about live band. You can come in as like a one-off off the street, and then all of a sudden you're core. And Andrew's all pissed off, and that was deliberate because he tells him later, Connolly was nothing to me but incentive for you. And he's really hurt and pissed off. And then he goes home, breaks up with Hot Girl, and practices harder, devotes his entire life, takes the Charlie Parker lesson, steals his resolve, and keeps on drumming and puts on multiple Band-Aids and stuff. It kind of works.
But that's because Andrew is the right match for Fletcher, and he's willing to put himself through this. Can we scientifically prove that these methods produce greatness?
This idea that greatness kind of exists and you're just a freak. You're just a Lance Armstrong anomaly where you happen to get on a bike and then you find out years later that your heart is like huge and able to pump blood more efficiently than other people. That Michael Phelps has a ridiculous streamlined swimmer's body where he's super tall on top and has little stubby flipper legs. It's just it's just how fortunate that dude got into a pool one day.
But I don't think it's that simple. I think it's a combination of natural ability with this incredible, relentless drive for greatness.
Man, super Gladwell of you.
Maybe. Didn't Beyonce's dad or manager be like, if you want to be great, I can make you great, but you have to want it? And she's like, I want it. It's like, yeah, man. But, she's also Beyonce. And she looks like Beyonce. And, you can't just decide you want to be great. But then some people do.
There's the Williamses. There's Tiger Woods' dad.
Right. So I think there are lots of different ways to achieve greatness. And I don't condone in any way Fletcher's methods. It's abuse.
Okay. That's absolutely the case. I love JK Simmons, and I love him in this role. I wouldn't come within a mile of that dude in real life because I would never fit into his purview of greatness and what makes a good conservatory band. So I'm thankful that I don't have to deal with dudes like this. He is a Dracula, I've decided.
Huh.
He sucks blood, calls it love. And somewhere along the line, he gets familiars and devotees who are just slavish and like, the master calls. And it's all bad. And yet I can't get rid of this idea that maybe it's the bad that makes the great. And great is not synonymous with good in a moral sense. Are any of the people who are far and away the greatest at what they do, are any of them good, well-rounded people? Einstein was a social mess. Tiger Woods was a kind of a cheating punk.
The king of pop, arguably the best musician and performer, kind of a sad life.
Yeah, the king himself. Our discussion of whom is available to the podcast. And what I chalked it up to was, why do I really like this movie? It's a technical movie, I think, is the point. And Miles Teller, the figure put forth, is around 40% of his actual drumming is on screen. That's a lot. That's a lot for a movie of this level of technical proficiency. Is a drummer, was a drummer before this movie, still trained 4 hours a day for months and months. JK Simmons has a degree in music, wanted to be a conductor. All this fortuitous. And they were like, don't worry, we'll get a thing. If it's not perfect, or, we'll sync the beats, we'll hit those hardest, during your performance, and it'll be great in post. And he's like, kid, you know that I was going to be a composer, right? And he's like, no, I didn't know that. It's crazy the amount of luck. How long shooting schedule? How long did this take to film?
Oh, I don't know. Tell me, because wow, whatever it was worth it.
What all went around was 19 days. And Damien Chazelle was like, I don't know where that came from. It was 20, which is incredible. Nobody wanted to finance a jazz drummer movie. So they did a short, sent it to Sundance, and immediately got financing, knocked it out in 20 days. I'm sure that more of that was in post. Some really good work with sound editing, mixing, but a technically proficient cast and crew and director, writer. And I think for Sundance, at least, this was the most wildly successful, not financially, didn't make a lot of money at first, but it stands as one of the greatest film debuts for a writer-director ever, because it has such staying power. And part of that staying power, I guess, is total and absolute loathing for this movie and the characters and what it stirs up in people. But it's effective because it invites discussion. I don't know how we didn't talk about Whiplash. Actually, I do, because you didn't want to talk about it, because you didn't want to go back into this world.
Ever. I avoided it like the plague, and because La La Land appears to be neither of our cup of tea. But what other opportunity would we have had to discuss Whiplash?
Teacher month. So, does Whiplash for you have a nope moment?
Ooh, because it is kind of a horror movie.
Yep.
A nope moment, by the way, is the moment in every horror movie where I decide that I, as a character within the movie, would be like, nope. And I would remove myself from that situation. 2014 Iris would run towards Fletcher, would make it my personal goal in life to win over Fletcher. 2025 Iris, my nope moment would have been the very first scene when he came back in to get his jacket. Like, I am not going to go down this road with this crazy person because I don't do crazy anymore. I don't do crazy, dude. I avoid crazy like the plague, and it makes me a little less compassionate than maybe I should be as a human being, as we discussed in A Real Pain. But I'm like, yeah, no, ain't nobody got time for crazy.
I still remember the teachers who believed in me, and I think there's no doubt that in his twisted way, Fletcher believed in Andrew. And even the ones that didn't believe in me, the ones that inspired me, I still remember their names. But were you so wildly talented at any given thing that because things happened and you didn't follow the crazy person or didn't reach the potential that these pushers might have gotten you to, did you deprive the world of the best Iris?
There's some logical fallacy to that question that I'm trying to put my finger on. What I can say is that I used to believe that I was waiting to be discovered. recognized and helped. And that was my own logical fallacy. I don't know, not savior complex. What is it when you want to be saved as opposed to you want to save people?
Munchausen syndrome.
And my own needing to be rescued complex or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure there's some psychological term for it. And I think that that's wrong. And maybe I'm going to come full circle on my current philosophy, which is you just got to make it. You can't wait for someone to do it for you. You got to do it yourself.
Just do it. Just Shia LaBeouf style.
No one does it alone. No one achieves greatness, success, etc. alone. I think it's a mistaken philosophy to expect someone else to do it, or that in order for you to do it yourself, you have to be recognized and helped.
So I'm gonna give Whiplash. I am really curious to see what 2025 Iris thinks of this movie. I'm gonna give this movie a ferocious rating. You know that JK Simmons got 2 cracked ribs when Miles Teller tackled him?
No.
Yep. Played through it or whatever. And that was towards the end of filming. But everyone was very serious about this movie. And apparently it was a horrific 2.5 weeks that they were filming. And toward the end, they were doing 18-hour days. All of that stuff really shows up on screen, whether it was innate talent, whether it was coached and developed talent in training and preparation for these roles, for all of the principles, or it was fix it in post. Somehow it came up to be remarkably effective and memorable. Ferocious rating from me.
Remarkably effective and a little too memorable. It's effective is the perfect word. It deserved the recognition, the accolades that it got, that Damien Chazelle got. But do I want to live in this world? No. Whiplash is a fantastic film. It's just not a world that I want to spend any more time in than I have to.
Last question. Because of his Draculiness, because of his omnipresence, it seems, his presence of mind being ahead of Andrew every step of the way, he was out. He was a recovering addict. He had kind of put the drumsticks down. He had reconciled himself to a Shafferless life, and that wasn't the track anymore after tackling his teacher. Did Fletcher somehow lure him to that jazz bar?
Oh, man, this is the question, Wes.
Brought him back in.
This is the question. And how far back does the manipulation go? Did he choose that exact location at that exact time?
We want our teachers to be all-knowing, far-seeing. We want them to have a comprehensive grasp. That, for me, is what I most admired about my best teachers, how they could apply their knowledge, their training, their intelligence to the entire world around them, how making them learned on a particular subject made them more worldly and smarter and better, not better in the case of Fletcher, but more rounded, capable human beings. I'm afraid that he set that up way in advance.
Yeah, one thing that it sounds like we can agree on, that I would bet the farm on, is that the idea didn't pop into his head when he saw him, when they sat down to have the drink, or when he seemingly spontaneously comes up with the idea after the drink when they're standing out on the street. It happened at some point well before that.
I'm saying he followed Andrew in his unemployment, tracked his route home from wherever he was working at that deli or something, and then wormed his way into a bar, volunteered his talents to play an open-door jazz bar on his route home.
Because vampires have got nothing but time. And if he wants to make it his personal mission to take this punk kid down, he's going to do it. And he's going to do it in the most dangerous way possible. And he succeeds. But then the weird, inexplicable thing about Whiplash is that in the end, they both win. They both succeed.
Well, my likening it to a drug addict is not the first time that it happened. And the question, the invitation to discussion that Damien Chazelle was posing was whether or not we're supposed to be happy for Andrew or to be sad that he allowed himself to get sucked back in, that he's back in the fold where he couldn't possibly be with Supergirl to have a normal life. He's not out of the clutches of Fletcher and maybe never will be.
Yeah, I mean, greatness is not conducive to a normal life, which was your point earlier. But is he in the clutches of Fletcher again?
I don't know.
I mean, I mean, he succumbs to Fletcher's ruse. He's mortally embarrassed in front of that audience that, quote, doesn't forget. But he also turns the tables. He makes it his own. And he's like, I'll cue you.
Right.
And Fletcher gets on board because, this is what he was looking for ostensibly kind of all along, is to bring out this greatness in him. But arguably, Andrew takes control of the situation. But see, this is... I feel myself getting sucked in, dude. No.
Teacher month. Man, we're starting hard, and it's going to get more teachery and less ambiguous as to whether or not this teacher business is a good business. I personally don't want to be in the business of teaching, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Teacher month here and at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts. And to all those teachers out there that are not Fletcher, good for you. And thank you for your service to the next generation of humankind. Thank you for listening to this episode on Whiplash. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know, 818-835-0473 or whatevermovies@gmail.com. Thank you, teachers everywhere, and we'll see you next time.
Everyone has heard about the U.S. space program, but what is actually going on at NASA? Get the real story in 4 minutes or less with the NASA Daily Podcast from Electricast. Join astronauts and researchers as they conduct groundbreaking experiments, work on the International Space Station, and reach for the stars. NASA Daily, your cosmic update.
Electricast. Hey guys, it's Miriam Love here, and I want to share something very special with you. Check out my new release, All In, the Spanish remixes, out now on Electricast Records. And always remember, be love, share love, all love.
Available now wherever you listen to music.